Howdy, everybody. Today is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, and the time is 5:30 p.m. We're here for the regular session of the Coppell City Council. We do have a quorum present, so I am calling the meeting to order. We will be convening into executive session in the first floor conference room. At the end of the executive session, I'll come out and announce that we are entering into work session, at which time the public is invited and encouraged to join us. Thank you very much. I need to do it for the recording. Sorry about that. The time is 5:44 p.m. We're moving into the work session in the first floor conference room. Thank you. The time is 5:46 p.m. We're in a work session of the Coppell City Council. We have 3 items on work session night. The first one is discussion regarding agenda items. Do we have any questions concerning any of the items? We did have a number of questions submitted to the staff. And while we're doing that one, yes, Bijou.
Yeah, number G. I'd like to hear a little more about that.
G. Okay, that's consider purchase of the replacement of 6 basketball goals and bases for the Andy Brown Park for $119,615. Dave Ellison and Jessica Carpenter.
So thank you. This is for the replacement of the 6 concrete basketball goals and bases. Sorry.
So you can be heard.
Yeah, and we just lost our quorum, so hang on just a moment.
I'm back.
Okay.
We have an extra couple. There it is.
Okay. Do you have a specific question?
Yeah, so, I know one of the basketball was out for more than 2 years, and they came back and fixed it, and it got damaged again. So my understanding was the people who put that there, they were under contract to come and replace it for free. Is that not true?
That is not correct. Actually, there are 2 basketball bases that are in question. They're on the half-court side. They were, Core Construction came out. They were the original reconstruction company that did the redevelopment of both the Andy Brown West and East parks. The 2 bases that are failing were actually repurposed from the old Andrew Brown East Park. So they were out of warranty. That was not part of Core Construction's, I would say, warranty to cover those, since it was not their original product. They were repurposed from the old facility at Andy Brown East. They did come out and try and address some issues. We worked with the original manufacturer, but since they were so far out of warranty, the recommendation was to replace them.
So we were out of warranty,
Yes.
even 2.5, 3 years ago?
Yes, like I said, those 2 half-court basketball bases, they were from the original Andrew Brown East Park, which I believe was built in the 1980s.
So I'm talking about the one in West.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, those two, so there's 6 basketball
Right.
bases out there.
Right.
There were 4 new ones that were put in for the 2 full courts. The 2 half courts, they utilized 2 of the old bases from the Andrew Brown Park East facility.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other items? We do have appointment of the boards and commissions, which is item L. Anybody have any comments? Ashley did tell me that this was one of the smoothest interview sessions that she's seen, that she appreciated everybody's cooperation and rapid decision-making ability on that. So she was very appreciative of everyone's efforts on that. Ishu?
Yeah, I have a question on that, actually. I did get a inquiry about the process that we follow when we select candidates for interviews.
Okay.
We send them email notification.
Yes.
Some people, their email may go to spam mail.
Okay.
Do we have any other way to inform the candidates about their interviews?
That is the process in which we go by. We have a system that we use, and that system sends out emails.
I mean, can we look into alternative texting them or some other communication channel for the candidates?
Of course, because it is y'all's process, and I would be happy to investigate any other communication techniques that you would like to use.
Is that something you'd like to take up at a later date for next year?
Yeah, we want to make sure that candidates we select get the notification if the emails, and one more source, maybe use postal mail or text message or something else to make sure that they receive the letter that we are sending, their interviews are, selected for this date.
I haven't looked at the application, but do we ask them for the best way to contact them?
So the application is done through our entire system, so the information that they input into their application is what we use to communicate with them.
Maybe we could add a checkbox about, please contact me using this technique or something like that. Or could be more than one.
Or if we know where the email originates from and its address, tell those candidates to add that to their contact list, and it won't go into the spam folder.
Right.
I got caught personally in one of the, it wasn't a spam, but somebody had sent me an email, and I looked and looked and looked and couldn't find it, and there was a folder well off the visual link of my computer called promotions. I never had seen it before. I didn't even know it was there. I had over 1,700 emails in it. And this one had been routed to that one for some reason, so. Okay, we'll take a look at that next year. Thank you. Any other comments? All right, well, thank you very much. Moving on. Item B, discussion about placing power lines underground with Kita Hobbs and Daniel Calamantes. These are your items. I like it.
Alrighty. Well, good evening, everyone. Good to see some familiar faces and everyone I work with staff. Good to see you guys besides email. So thank you all for allowing Encore and myself to come in and just really kind of talk about some of the questions you may have about undergrounding. It's really a special situation that we at least give as much information as we can to city and staff and let you know how this works. And it's a very rigorous process, but we definitely just want to give you just foundation, guidelines, what to look for, and just kind of go from there. First off, I'm going to just start with just a quick overview of Encore. I believe everyone, especially council, has seen this. Maybe one council member, I know is newer, that you might not have seen this presentation. So as you all know, of Encore, we've started over 100 years, so you may be familiar with some of these names. I, myself, am a Louis the Lightning Bug kid, so I grew up with the TU electric symbol. So as you can see, we have always been proud to be a part of the Texas community. Encore delivers safe and reliable power. So as you can see, we are the largest transmission and distribution utility here in Texas. We are the poles and wires company, so we don't own, generate, produce, or sell electricity. We are regulated by the PUC, that's the Public Utility Commission of Texas, and ERCOT, which is the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. We have over 4,800 employees who live and work across our service area. And the crazy thing and great thing about Encore is that I probably started about 10 years ago, and at that time we had about 3,500 employees. So it's really showing the growth of, as we know, Texas, but as well as our company. Overall, Encore is investing in a safer, smarter, and more reliable power grid. We have made some major commitments. We've invested billions of dollars across our service area to build, upgrade, and operate a safer, smarter, more reliable electric grid. Between 2019 and 2013, just to give you guys some numbers, Encore has added over 10,500 miles of rebuilt transmission lines and new transmission and distribution lines. We have 340,000 new customer connections, as well as more than 200 new substations across our service area. So again, I just really want to emphasize the growth. Encore's CapEx plan includes a $19 billion in investments over the next 5 years. And on May 6th, just for information purposes, Encore filed for its first system resiliency plan with the PUC. And if that's approved, Encore will invest approximately $3 billion over the 3-year period in order to enhance the resiliency of its transmission and distribution system. So again, just our overall commitment to the growth of Texas. Now this is where I'm going to actually have my coworker Daniel here. He's our regulatory manager. He's going to give a little bit more information on the underground facilities cost recovery factor and kind of just go over the steps needed for that.
Good evening. So thank you, Keita. So my name is Daniel Talamontes. I'm in our regulatory department. And so today I'm going to talk to you about the UFCRF, which is the underground cost recovery factor. This presentation really just pulls out the key points that come from our tariff. And so I'm just going to highlight a few of those things as we go through this presentation. Okay, so as a result of the 2006 settlement, we were able to come to an agreement with the Steering Committee of Cities to allow original jurisdiction cities to approve undergrounding projects that are requested by the city to place our existing overhead facilities underground. And so the tariff provides for full cost recovery through a surcharge to all electric customers within the city limits. And so for Coppell, looking at the numbers in 2023, that number stands at 18,914 inside city limits. And so the funds from the tariff can be used again to improve electric utility infrastructure, and so particularly the replacement of overhead wires, poles, transformers to underground conduits, cable, and pad mount equipment. In addition to the distribution facilities, the tariff also allows to underground transmission facilities. But as we get into transmission facilities, the cost gets exponentially increased. So just a side note there. And so through the tariff, the rider is applied on a project by project basis. And so the cost recovery is a fixed dollar rate per rate class on a per month basis. And so we have different rate classes. And so depending on what the project may be, those costs are allocated to those rate classes, and then people would potentially see that on their bill on a monthly basis. So recovery periods are from 12 months up to 4 years, and the recovery amount includes any interest, cost of public notice, design, build, and etc. So there is a cap on the outstanding amount for each city, and the initial estimate that would be potentially provided is good for 120 days. The design must meet both current and future capacity requirements, and then at the end of the recovery period, there is a true-up. So whether there was an over-collection or under-collection, we would review and see if there's any monies that need to be transferred either direction. The agreement binds the city for repayment if the tariff is no longer in effect, and it is available to original jurisdiction cities only, which I already mentioned. And there is a step process that is actually was added to this presentation, and so we can go through it, or I can touch on it, but it basically just lines out the process for getting everything filed, going through the whole process. The tariff cannot be used to pay for relocation or burial of other utilities such as phone, cable, natural gas, and other utility providers besides our equipment. Some additional considerations, and so the replacement of overhead facilities underground cannot preclude Encore from using the existing right-of-way for future extension of overhead facilities, since that is our standard design. One of the big things that does take time is securing all required easements or right-of-way needed to underground the conductors. Is a big issue that needs to be done by the city prior to starting construction, and then as well as the clearing of any of the easements or right-of-way obstructions necessary to install our facilities. The replacement of affected customers' existing overhead services, so any service taps, is not included in the cost. It would be borne by, or have to be borne by the city, and then there is an option for the city to actually do the civil work as long as it's following Encore specifications. And so there's a little bit of cost savings there potentially if you have contracts with existing contractors. The city should expect to secure electrical inspections as needed. We'll also coordinate to help and make appropriate arrangements for location of those third-party facilities that may exist in the underground or overhead. And so that also includes third-party attachers that may be on the overhead lines. And then, of course, the tariff cannot be changed in any form from the original wording. So this is the step process. I mean, if you want me to go through it, I can. Okay. So it's a multi-step process, but again, it contains different filings. So an underground statement of intent, an underground ordinance, and then you have to provide notification to the public, and then we have to put it in a local news agency for 4 weeks, basically providing public notice. And so with that being said, I want to harp that once it gets to that step, if it does, Encore takes a step back. And so at that point, it becomes the city's responsibility to get this approved, because this is a cost that we passed on to the citizens of potentially the city of And so I think, and Keita can speak to this project, but this is I guess the initial project that we gave a cost estimate to. And so in the tariff, the allocated cost that you could potentially pull from, you take that $18,914 and you multiply it times $10. So essentially $189,000 or $50,000, whichever is greater. So in this case, $189,000 would apply. And so with that being said, the initial cost for this project is estimated at $750,000. So that cost difference would need to be borne by the city up front. And so that additional excess cost would potentially go into the rider and then would be pulled from the citizens and then their bills on a monthly basis.
And I just wanted to make sure, just to kind of bring a little clarity to it, right? It sounds great if we're gonna underground this intersection, but I really wanted to bring numbers and provide an estimate of just that particular intersection of Sandy Lake and MacArthur. So you're seeing that total is about $750,000 to $800,000, and that's just relocating our facilities. You have to remember, as he stated before, this doesn't include foreign facilities that have to be buried as well. So they'll have their own costs, let's say AT&T, Verizon, whoever it may be. Another thing also for the city, that you would have to acquire all of those private easements for transformer switch gears on private property. Another thing you have to always remember, even in those intersections, some of them may be very tight, so you gotta find a spot for that transformer, for those large switch gears, and being able, again, to get that easement for it. So there can be some challenges, but we at least wanted to give you that full picture of what it would look like just for one intersection to underground under this tariff. And I believe that's all we have. We're open to answer questions. Again, we just wanted to provide just basic foundation of what this looks like, to know kind of what the cost would be incurred for the city, as well as the additional steps necessary if you wanted to consider a couple of intersections.
Thank you, Keita. Just as a kind of little background, this got started obviously as a result of Winter Storm Uri. And I think the Mayor Pro Tem actually was pretty vocal about it several years ago. And so we've asked Encore to come back, and this is not the first presentation that we've had on this, but it's an evolution, so we're still working down the, what is it and what it would entail. So, Ramesh, you had a question?
Thank you, Mayor. And I completely understand that there is an quality of life benefit for the residents of Coppell, and there is a maintenance benefit for Encore as well. Once those are buried. And as I understand it, after the 5 years of tariffs, when the cost is paid off, the ongoing revenue benefit comes only to Encore, correct?
So I'm sorry, can you repeat that question? So the cost, once it's paid for, it is done, the rider would be, we would look and see if there's any true up that needs to happen,
Right.
but then it would essentially just, it would end.
Right.
So,
But your financial, the revenues that you make out of those lines will continue, correct?
No. The tariff ends at that point.
Right, the cost part ends, Mayor, that's
Right.
right. But today, Encore, the revenue model is, when residents use those lines, it's generating revenue for Encore. You may guys be non-profit,
He's
but
talking about the on-call delivery charge on your electric bill.
Oh, the standard Encore delivery charge would continue,
right.
but the extra tariff would be reduced after the 4 to 5 years.
My question is, and again, nothing against you guys, you did a wonderful presentation. The way your points read, it's kind of tells us what to do, and it looked more like a contract that I would see from my customer. They pretty much tell us this is how you do it because I'm a vendor. So it reads very one way to me. And my question is, since this is going to be an ongoing revenue generator for Encore, why is this not a CapEx for Encore?
so in terms of just undergrounding facilities in general, and so just the exponential cost of having to do so. So electrically, just from taking something overhead to underground doesn't necessarily make it better. So we end up having additional issues, like if there's a fault, trying to locate that fault underground, whereas if it's overhead, we can see it, and typically you can have a person go out and find that fault. When it's underground, you have a whole different set of issues that you're gonna have to handle. So in terms of just going and undergrounding everything, so from a standpoint, this rider is specific to the city of Coppell or any other city, original jurisdiction city that would want to do it. But anything else is borne by the ratepayers, so all of us. So everybody in our service territory would end up having to pay for that. And so what this rider did was it took each individual city on a case-by-case basis, but it's up to the city if they want to do that. So across the board, it just would make electric rates substantially increase it just wouldn't be practical. So I guess to answer your question, that's why we don't do it everywhere, to try to keep those rates down and fair. But again, it would essentially impact everybody if we started doing it everywhere instead of just in each individual city.
Kevin?
I wanted to kind of clarify kind of what you were saying, Ramesh, just so I understand. So what I'm hearing is that like, why would Encore want to do this? Well, we did ask Encore to start bringing us back some numbers to understand. I think the standard service is the overhead on the poles, correct? Like
That's correct.
like I'm going to bring you electricity. It's on the poles. Here we go. But it is up to us to decide if we want to route those underground. And one of the specific things that came up was when we had the water issue that came up, and I believe that's probably why this example was done right here, because that's the intersection where we had the issue that happened where we knocked out the pump station. So there were questions around council of, well, if to protect that facility from something like this happening again, because all the redundancies were, everything that could go wrong did go wrong, right? Well, if we could take those lines underground, we could take out the potential for a vehicle smashing into the pole and causing that outage. So that was the kind of the idea of us asking Encore to bring us this presentation on that. Wasn't necessarily to, this is an additional cost that we were considering doing, and I think this is one of the avenues that they offer to help offset the cost. Does that give any background or perspective?
Thanks, it does. So this is an ask from us to them.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
correct, yes.
Because we're rate-based, this is something we do not push on any of our cities. Of course, anytime that anyone wants to underground, that is a cost that we pass on to them. Because again, being rate-based, you could have someone in another city paying for that.
You know, if we ask for it, then it makes complete sense.
Understood, okay.
Gotcha. No
Okay,
problem.
Jim?
Just wanted to address something Kevin said. Of course, I don't know that this would necessarily solve the problem that accident caused, because if the car hit the transformer or the switchgear, we're still gonna have a loss of service. So, and one question I did have though was,
Excuse me.
have y'all ever gone underground on cabling where there was a dart rail? I mean, are there some intersections in our community now on the southern end that probably would not be even amenable to having this done just because the dart rail has already been designed and is pretty well dominating the space on those corners and that sort of thing?
Potentially, so I'm not aware, I guess, what facilities may be there or in that area, but I mean, there's a potential, and that's one of the things when you're gonna relocate something that's overhead to underground, all that plays a part. If there's dart rail there, or if there's gas or cat or whatever it may be, so potentially, I can't speak to it just because I'm not aware of what may be out
Sure,
there.
sure. And then my last question was, I've read some stuff in the past suggesting that the underground cabling doesn't necessarily require less maintenance from Encore than the above ground cabling, right? I mean, there's still other kinds of failures and equipment problems you can have, whether it's above ground. It's just some of the above ground stuff, you know, birds flying on it, whatever. That, you don't run into that, but you could have flooding issues, you can have all sorts of other underground issues, right?
Correct, so it's a whole different set of issues. So where you have overhead exposure, underground, you have water to deal with, you have just moisture in general, which electricity and moisture don't mix
They're
very
not
well.
friends, yeah.
You have just the conduit systems, and so, yes, it's a whole different set of issues that you would have potentially.
So aren't we really looking at the cost of this as simply acquiring an aesthetic benefit? I mean, we're not getting less maintenance, and we're not getting really any less risk that the system will be lost by virtue of an accident or something, because the other equipment that's also above ground would have just as catastrophic an effect if it were taken out. So we're really just looking at paying this money for an aesthetic benefit.
In my personal opinion, because the tariff doesn't really kind of allude to anything like that, I think so, because I think from why this was created was a benefit to be able to provide that option to the cities, to underground facilities, and in most cases, it ends up being aesthetics. You don't like, you know, overhead lines aren't the prettiest, but they serve a purpose. And so I think with overall, that was the purpose was, you know, mainly aesthetics.
So one of my takeaways from a previous presentation was that there's two criteria that are used, and I don't remember the acronyms for them, but one of them was the frequency of failure, which is how often is a line gonna go down? And that, you know, is, we're below the state minimal or level, we're below the state average, we're below the Encore average. But then the other one is the time to repair. Going underground does reduce the frequency of repair, but the time to repair a fault goes way up. So you kind of trade off. It does make it more reliable, but your time to repair after a fault occurs goes up substantially. So that's kind of the trade-off. At least that's what I remember from one of the previous ones.
And I think that's correct
Yeah.
too, for sure. So the safety and safety is what
I wish I remembered the acronyms for that, because they
Safety
sound.
and safety.
There you go,
Yeah.
thank you.
So, yes, and so that is, again, yes, that is accurate. So when, or potentially, just depending on what happens, there's so many different things that can occur, but trying to pull out the underground and trying to figure out what that fault is located, I mean, you can't see it. So you're trying to see where, first you gotta find it, then you gotta pull it out. It's a different set of crews too, so it's not overhead crews, you gotta get underground crew to come do that.
And again, to that point, you're still susceptible to cars running into things, heat, flooding, any of those things can happen as well, so, as you know.
Mark?
So could it, thinking back to some of the recent power outages we've had, where there's been a couple of days where neighborhoods have been without power, have those been due to overhead power lines going down, or has it been more of a transformer issue that has caused the problem?
So I probably want to speak to specifically, I don't recall going down for days, except during the storms, right, the major storms, but we've had some cars hit some poles that were extended amount of times because we have to replace 2 or 3 poles, get another crew out to set that line. Of course, if there's a transformer that needs to be replaced, those type of situations happen where you have to get the transformer there, be able to isolate in those different ways. So I can look back to specific times that you're talking about and really give you clarity on specifically what happened and what caused the timeline for restoration.
Okay, so I was thinking back that there was a couple of neighborhoods in particular that were out for an extended amount of time. And I don't think that burying the lines would have solved the problem as I remember it. And because we're not burying transformers,
Correct.
right? Because that's just overwhelmingly
I think
a
that-
huge cost.
I think one of those, there was just a failure of notification that I'm remembering.
Yeah, maybe that.
I don't remember.
That's the one in the middle of the
A
night.
year
Yeah,
ago?
that-
Okay, yeah,
That
that
okay.
was,
It
yeah,
was-
from, I think we had it was a transformer that caught on fire, it was one of those, and we had to isolate probably about 100 residents, but unfortunately, maybe like 10 of those, and I spoke with a resident about 2 o'clock that morning, they were impacted by that transformer. So unfortunately for them, we got the rest of everyone else home, but we isolated that and then had to come out and replace it. So it was just one of those sticky situations that, you you can't deny it and can't avoid it.
And what we're talking about here wouldn't have solved that problem.
No, sir.
Kevin?
So I had a question specifically kind of about the tariff. So tariff is an option that we could take advantage of to bury lines. Is that correct?
That's correct, you don't have to.
Yeah, so, but it's just an option that you guys are presenting today. Are there any other type of funding mechanisms besides us just fitting the bill, upfront basically?
Not that I'm aware of, in terms of
Okay.
just undergrounding or just in general.
Just underground, yeah.
Yeah, this is the only one that exists,
Okay,
yes.
so it'd either be, we take on the whole amount of the project, or we could use the tariff to help
Correct.
subsidize the cost.
And the tariff is specific about the allotment, so that customer count up there, multiplied times 10 is the dollar figure you could potentially pull from that would go to the ratepayers in your city, and then the rest would have to be borne upfront by the city or.
And I want to make sure I understood correctly, so you're specifically saying $10 times the 914, is that the maximum tariff that you
That's the
can pull?
maximum what the tariff says you can pull.
Okay.
So we couldn't pull more than 189,000?
By the tariff, no. Now, if you wanted to potentially, like, let's say you wanted to do the $800,000 project, you could subtract that 189, but then the rest of those dollars would have to come upfront and be borne by the city potentially.
Thank you for that clarification, that's exactly what I was looking for, so thank you.
I did not catch that the first time through. Ramesh?
Thank you, Mayor. I know this intersection was an example. Do we know the size of the total project? Do we know what percentage of overhead lines need to go underground?
We're not even there yet.
Okay.
So the purpose of this, I think this section was just to get a feel for the type of scope that we're looking at. Without even putting, as Keita said, they gave us numbers for this one intersection.
And from this example, is 189,000 kind of the maximum we can charge? So everything else has to come from a different funding? Okay. Thank you.
Any questions?
Are you done?
Whenever you guys are.
Maybe I
The Mayor Pro Tem has another question.
have a question for our city manager.
Mike?
So with the different funding sources that we have, do we have any special revenue funds or anything like that that would qualify for this type of project, or would this be general fund or a type of project? Just curious.
It would be part of your potential designated fund balance.
Okay. So, all right, thank you.
So what is, I know that we had a series of presentations planned. Was this kind of the end of yours at this point? Till we decide what we want to do? All right, I think the ball's back in our court then.
All right.
We're available to answer any questions that you have as they come up, sir. I'm here.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate you.
Thank you all.
Good. Thank you guys
Thank you very
very
much.
much. Good to see you.
did not understand the whole tariff thing, so thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation.
All right, item C is presentation on cooperative contracts. This will be Ms. Tien and Ms. Cook, I believe.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I am pleased to introduce Jennifer Cook. She is our Senior Procurement Specialist for the City of Coppell. Jennifer is here to share information on the topic of cooperatives as a purchasing tool. Jennifer holds a certification from the state of Texas in contract development, and she also has earned the designation of Certified Procurement Professional through the National Institute of Public Procurement. So, as our procurement expert, Jennifer plays a vital role in guiding us to be responsible stewards of the city's resources. She provides us advice on and educates us about the various procurement methods available. And so tonight she is going to again share with you information on cooperatives. And so with that, Jennifer.
Thank you, Kim. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to be here with you today. I just want to kind of do a quick overview on cooperative contracts. So this is, we've got about 4 slides that I'm going to cover. The first is going to outline the Texas Local Government Code and what they say about using cooperative contract programs, and then the actual co-ops that City of Coppell is a member of, and then what are the benefits of utilizing cooperative contracts, and lastly, the cooperative agency, their bidding process. Okay, so Texas Local Government Code 271.102 states that by using a cooperative, this satisfies any state law requiring the local government to seek competitive bids for the purchase of goods or service. So when we use a vendor that is on a cooperative, we are doing our due diligence and we are complying with our local government code. These are our co-ops that we are members of that we utilize by board. Which I know that you've seen these on agenda items. We use these for vehicles, motorcycles, fitness equipment. For choice partners, we use them. There's a vendor for third-party building inspections, Bureau Veritas, that we use. DIR, of course, is technology and equipment. HGAC, we use fire and the contract with Motorola for the radios. We also purchase ambulance and fire trucks through HGAC. Omnia Partners, we use TDI, which is our HVAC maintenance and repair contract. And then TIPS, the Interlocal Purchasing System, minor street repairs and building remodels. Okay, what are the benefits of utilizing these contracts? Well, the first one being time efficiency. It really streamlines the bidding process. If a department contacts me and wants to bid something through procurement, we're looking from the start of placing the bid ad all the way to putting it on the council schedule for award at 60 days. However, if we choose a vendor that's on a cooperative, that time is reduced to basically 2 to 3 weeks. It's just when can we get on the agenda to get it approved by council. So that's a great time efficiency. Compliance and due diligence, as I pointed out earlier, we're doing that through the local government code. Access to expertise. Each cooperative has a board of directors, and they have procurement experts and subject matter experts that are pertinent to the field, to the good or service that we're buying. So we're getting their expertise in reviewing these responses. And qualified vendors. We know that when we work with these co-ops, we're gonna get qualified, experienced vendors. Okay, and lastly, this is the cooperative agency bid process, which is, it mirrors our process. They advertise a request for proposal or request for bid. When I advertise, we use the Rambler, which services the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Byboard, for example, they advertise in 11 different papers across the state of Texas. So we're reaching a lot of vendors that way. Then the second step is they come to the review process. And as I said, they have qualified and experienced people that are reviewing these responses. And then we award the contract, and they usually award it for a year with up to 4 years to renew. And then we're able to utilize that contract. So that was just like a really quick overview of co-ops. So what questions can I answer for you?
Could you go back to your slide that showed the 6 different co-ops?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I know we've got one tonight for our HVAC repair. So that would be Omnia Partners. Is that, the co-op itself, is that like a commercial entity, or is it a nonprofit, or how is it set up as a, you said they had a board of directors, so how is that set up?
So Omnia Partners services both government and private sector customers. And they are actually a combination of U.S. Communities and the National Purchasing Association. Those merged and became Omnia Partners.
So I know one of the approved vendors under them is TDI. Is TDI the only approved vendor that they recommend?
No, they have a myriad of number of vendors.
I wasn't sure if it was, they focused down on one or had a...
No, and actually all of these, we can, tips, we can use vendors that they have some, Silsby Ford is a tips vendor. So, it just depends. The only one is DIR, and they are strictly technology.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Bijou?
Yeah, do you have a list of contractors that we used in last year utilizing these cooperative memberships? How many projects that we went through this?
How many vendors we used with co-ops?
Yes.
I don't, but I can get that for you.
Okay.
Jennifer, will you share with them, you did go back and look from October to July, how many,
Oh,
the
yeah,
co-ops versus
that's true.
bidding?
We did kind of do from October to July, it was 50-50. So 50% we came through procurement and we bid, and the other 50% we used vendors on cooperatives.
Thank you, Mayor. Jennifer, thank you for this wonderful presentation. This is one area where I think I generate a lot of questions for Mike.
Okay.
Each time the agenda is published, so I'm going to take an action item and learn as much as I can. So help me understand here. So one of the things that we got a bid was for the Andy Brown outdoor furniture.
Okay.
And I looked at the cost, the quote for a chair, $765. It kind of looked high to me.
Okay.
Walk me through, tell me why that's a price you would see under the co-op. I'm assuming that vendor is part of the co-op? Yes? Or is it some other by board or other membership?
I don't have it in front of me, I don't know.
Is that on the agenda tonight?
It's my word.
It's my
Oh,
board.
yeah, that is, Playwell, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Yes, yes. So, this is where best value comes in. And this is why we align with these cooperatives, is because our best value criteria, it's not just about price. It's about vendor reputation, references, experience, customer service. That has to align with City of Coppell's expectations as well. So, you know, sometimes when they're reviewing this, they're taking all of that into consideration. What is the total best solution? And pricing is not always the driving factor in that.
Thank you.
The other thing too, so when you, it's kind of like the proverbial, because I can hear that question like it's the price of a hammer. Why does this cost so much? This is an outdoor piece of equipment that's heavily used. It is not what you would put in your backyard. So inherently in that is something that's got to last a long time, or should last a long time. So it's heavier duty, manufactured. So for the typical, if I'm just gonna get a bench for my backyard, I'm gonna run down to Home Depot, you know, right? Or I'll use another thing. If I'm just gonna get a lawnmower and I'm just gonna go down, I'm gonna pay X, but I'm gonna be using a lot more of my lawnmower. That's a terrible thing. But, you know, out in the parks and field, it is not your standard lawnmower. After one use, that thing would be not useful anymore, right? So consider that as part of the process.
It's more a professional grade kind of a thing.
Yeah, in terms of, yes, yeah. We just don't run to Home Depot to do those kind of things, right? No, I'm not saying anything negative about Home Depot products.
And no one took it that way.
I know, that's what I want to take now, right?
Does anybody have any other questions here?
I feel like I should pay for tuition or something. That was a very nice class.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer,
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Kim, thank you. I gotta admit, I've been confused when I see these different words come up, like the buy board and the HCAG, or however you pronounce it. I thought they were
HGAC.
HGACs. I did not realize that they were individual entities, so that helps significantly. So,
Good, good.
thank you.
I hope when you see those, you'll remember me.
There was a quote from a movie that goes after that, but I think I'll pass on that one right now. Anybody else have anything? We are at the end of work session. The time is 6:32 p.m. And we will convene into regular session of the city council at 7:30. Thank you very much. of the Coppell City Council. Just as a reminder, persons wishing to speak during our citizens' appearance or during the public hearings must sign the appropriate registers located outside the council chambers and list your home address. Tonight, we have Melody Rahani with our Allies Interface Group here to give our invocation, and then we will recite our Pledge of Allegiance, so please remain standing, and if you will rise.
I'll be sharing a prayer for unity. O my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal to them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily, thou art their helper and their Lord. Baha'u'llah.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and be seated. Item number 6 is our citizens' appearance. Persons wishing to speak must sign the register and list their home address. Presentations by individuals shall be limited to 3 minutes each. Persons signed up to speak will be called in the order that they signed up. No personal attacks by any speaker shall be made against any member of the council, the mayor, individual, group, or corporation. There will be no comments or deliberations from the City Council due to the Texas Open Meetings Record Act. We do have one person signed up to speak this evening, and that is Mr. Thomas Burrows. Mr. Burrows?
Thomas Burrows, 138 Windpage. I'm going to Cozumel this week, and I was thinking of taking the submarine. So if anyone wants to contribute to that, maybe I won't come back. Anyway, street lights on Sandy Lake right before 121 are still out. This has been reported at least 3 times to council. Street light on bridge at Sandy Lake eastbound, last one going east. Speed radar on Sandy Lake at least off by at least 7 miles per hour. Street light on bridge on Denton Tap busted south side. Several other bridge lights covered by thing. Pile of limbs at the entrance of the neighborhood that the mayor lives in. It's just there. I don't know why. Dead limb on tree by 7-Eleven. I don't see the time down here. Anyway. And all the weeds down at Beltline and 635 on the west side, I chopped them down and chopped them up so that, because this is the front end of the city. Someone had dumped a pile of limbs in a refrigerator on the east side of Beltline, just north of QT. I picked up the limbs, but since I don't have a way of disposing of the fridge, I left it there. Hopefully somebody will go get it. The rest of the bridges around town have limbs in front of the lights. Many of the signs that tell people which direction city facilities have limbs in front of them. The big lot next to the switching center on Sandy Lake needs to be mowed. Many of the power poles that are not being used on Denton Tap and Beltline need to be removed. And I had suggested that we put a guardrail up down here on North Denton Tap coming from middle school north. And around it appears that the limbs on Beltline and Denton Tap that needed to be trimmed so people could use a sidewalk has been done. And in our HOA windpage, the alleyway around the outside, the trees really need trimming, except for the trees behind the martial arts business, which have been trimmed. Thank you, Councilmember Nevels, for doing that. I'll hand this to you.
If you'll give those to Ms. Owens, she will make copies for the council. Thank you very much for your comments tonight. Item number 7 is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is routine in nature and is generally enacted in a single motion. These items have been previously approved through the budget or past council action. Any item may be pulled and considered separately. Full descriptions are available on the screen. Council, do you have any questions or desire to pull an item from the agenda? Seeing none, I will be willing to accept a motion. Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve item number 7A through L.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Hill. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa, Smith, Carolyn Neville, Prem Kumar, Matthew Hill in favor, none opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 8 is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. And Mary is already down here. Great. So this is consider approval of PD 318LI, a zoning change request from light industrial and special use permit LINS 1132 to PD 318-LI, which is planned development 318 light industrial, to approve a new site plan to add 186,143 square foot industrial building and associated parking on 13.05 acres of property. Just as a note, we did not have anybody sign up for this public hearing, so Mary, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. This particular site consists of 2 properties zoned light industrial located on the east side of Freeport Parkway, approximately 2,300 feet south of Sandy Lake Road, and are proposed to be replatted into 1 lot should this zoning change happen. One site currently has a residence on it, while the other larger site has an industrial building and conference center / lodging house on it. Both sites are proposed to be redeveloped with a larger industrial building. And on the screen here, you can see underneath is the existing building, and over top is the proposed building. The applicant has met with the HOAs of both residential developments about the proposal. So the proposed industrial buildings, approximately 186,143 square feet. It will be situated east to west on the site. The southern end will be the front facade, with the northern end containing the truck court area, and will have 55 overhead doors. The site will provide 230 car parking spaces along the east, west, and southern sides of the property. This is a spec building with the ability to house 1 to several businesses. To the south is the city's Rolling Oak Cemetery, which ranges from 4 to 8 feet higher than this particular site. So a PD condition is to allow a living screen in lieu of a masonry screening wall is being requested along the northern and eastern property lines where it abuts residential. Along the majority of the northern property line exists an 80-foot deep tree preservation easement that extends to the eastern boundary where it becomes 50-foot deep. So that's on the green that you see on the screen right now. The dense tree line acts as a natural living screen from the residential. Along the southern property line, the tree line along with the retaining wall and the site being lower would screen the cemetery property. Another PD condition being requested to the City Council is to the city's CLOMER application requirement. FEMA does not require a CLOMER for the kind of work this project proposes, whereas the city does. The information the applicant has provided shows that the on-site detention basin is sufficient to accommodate the stormwater runoff and that there is no adverse impact to the creek because of this development. Engineering staff has reviewed the plans and support this request. So you can see the blue represents the detention basin, the yellow is the truck court area, and the green is the current tree preservation area. So the property, as I said, has an existing tree preservation easement, which will remain along the northern and eastern side of the property, 80 feet and 50 feet deep. In addition to that, they will be preserving the majority of trees along the northern side, extending that 80-foot deep easement to the western property line. They will also be preserving trees along the southern property line and anywhere else possible. We did do a tree survey and mitigation plans, and they will be paying approximately $637,250 in tree mitigation fees for this development if approved. They are planting 98 trees and have upgraded those from a 3-inch caliper to a 4-inch caliper, and they'll be planted not only in the parking islands around the building, but also filling in any gaps around the existing tree areas. So while the property to the north and east are zoned residential, the actual homes are quite far away from the building. So if you can look on your screen here, from the proposed building to the north, the closest house is about 520 feet away, and then to the east, it's roughly 250 feet away. And when you look at this, take into account that there's 80 feet of trees in that tree preservation easement on this property. And if you look beyond the gray there on the residential, there's probably at least another 100 to 150 feet of trees to the north, and probably about another 75 to 100 feet to the east. So the homes to the north have very long lots with the majority in the floodplain, which does not allow for screening walls to be placed in it. There is a retaining wall proposed along the majority of the northern portion of the truck court and wraps around the eastern fire lane and parking area and along the southern parking area. There are 2 proposed driveways on Freeport, with the drive aisle also acting as a fire lane as it circles the building. And so we did have some questions from some of the neighbors in terms of the site visibility. So as I mentioned, the building to the north, the closest house is about 520 feet from the closest residence to the north. So you can see there's 80 feet of preserved trees, and again, not counting the trees on the residential property. So the sightline exhibit provided does illustrate that between the distance and the tree line, the height of the proposed building should not really be a factor. And in this slide, we're also looking at the sight lines from the eastern side. So it's about 250 feet to the nearest residence to the east, with 50 feet of tree preservations on this property, with additional trees on the residential lots. Again, about 250 feet. So when we look at the elevations for the proposed building, it'll be a combination of tilt wall with vertical decorative battens, clear story windows on the upper portion of the building, and windows along the lower levels. The southeast and southwest corners of the building have an aluminum storefront with decorative form liner, spandrel glass, be similar in appearance to an office building. This office-styled architecture extends along the southern end in 2 additional sections. The windows along the southeast, southwest, and southern sides have metal canopies over them as well. The building is oriented east-west with the truck court oriented to the north. The building is proposed to be 43 feet in height on one end and 39.5 feet on another end. So there is a PD condition to allow the building to be taller than 35 feet when it's located within 150 feet. So right now there's, the ordinance requires that if you're within 150 feet of a property zone residential, that you can't go taller than 35 feet. So what they're asking is to be allowed to go 43 feet on one end and 39.5 feet on the other elevation. And as we showed earlier, the closest house is at least 250 to 520 feet away. So no signage was provided with this submittal. Any proposed signage will need to comply to city requirements. And this image is just of the truck court area. And here are some renderings of the building's architecture. So you can see it's kind of like an office type architecture. So because this is a zone change request, we did do some mailings. 20 notices were sent out within the required 200 feet, and 69 courtesy notices within 800 feet. We received about 4 responses that were just really more concerned about noise and truck traffic, and we had 2 that were opposed that were located within the 200 feet. So on the top there, you can see the bottom of the lot, because that lot extends further up. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this request subject to the following conditions. 1, to allow a living screen instead of a masonry screening wall. 2, to allow the construction of a 43-foot tall building within 150 feet of residential properties. And 3, to approve a variance to the city requirement for a conditional letter of map revision, or CLOMR. That is the end of my presentation. The applicant is here as well to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions for Mary? Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, I guess just for my own benefit, just kind of make sure I understand this. So on the CLOMR letter, the condition there is that the variance is that it won't be required of them. Is that right?
I will have Mr. Mike Garza come down and.
All right. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening. Yes, that is the request, is to vary the CLOMR requirement. They will still be required to complete a LOMR. So the CLOMR is a conditional letter of map revision to the floodplain. The LOMR is the letter of map revision. So CLOMRs typically happen prior to the development, and then the LOMR is the as-built or as-built condition of what they do. And so what we're doing is they're requested a variance from our ordinance that requires a developer, whenever they request to fill the floodplain, we require them to go through the CLOMR process. In this case, there's a small sliver, 20. It's very insignificant to the overall development, and so we feel that they provided a study with hydraulic data that shows no adverse impacts. They're providing the floodplain reclamation by using the detention pond and accommodating for that additional fill location, and so we feel the LOMR process still meets the needs of our ordinance, and so they will still continue with the LOMR process.
Okay, and there's no FEMA requirement?
There is no FEMA
on this?
requirement for doing a CLOMR.
Okay. While you're up here.
Sure.
Thank you, Mike. On the masonry screen wall, the reason that, as I understand it, that we're not requiring that is because it couldn't be built in the floodplain or in the creek bed or whatever?
That's correct. We do not allow any, our floodplain ordinance does not allow any structures to be constructed in the floodplain. And so that is why we do not allow screen walls in the floodplain. Yeah.
So the allowing for the living wall would just basically comport with what's already there with respect to the woods that extend all the way through that creek bed?
That is correct.
Okay. And then on the, I guess, the northeast side of the building, there's about a 4-foot stone retaining wall. Does that affect a mitigation of the height from the surrounding areas because the building is 4 feet below grade?
That is my understanding. Is it is for the height difference between. If you do you have that? You want to pull up that cross section showing. Yeah, is this the one you're referring to?
No. There was in the packet. There was a picture of an actual stone retaining wall.
It's similar. It's similar to this cross section. So if I can.
But these particular drawings, though, if you were to get up like where that guy's standing, the little guy next to the building, he would actually, wouldn't he be lower than that because he would be inside the 4-foot retaining wall on the east side?
I'd have to look at those, is it, do we have it on here? That stone wall?
Because I think the fact that the building is actually sunk 4 feet on the north and east side, wouldn't that actually mitigate any of the large, I mean,
Yeah.
when we say that there's a variance on the
Right,
height, we're
yes.
actually already 4 feet
That's
lower
correct.
anyways,
Yes,
right?
that's correct, yep.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. And then, okay, I think that's all I had. Thank you so much, Mike.
Councilmember Prem Kumar.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Boswell, thanks for the presentation. Can you move to the final recommendation slide, please? So I'm trying to understand here, on bullet number 2, Ms. Boswell, the current regulation is if it is 150, within 150 feet of a residential property, it can only be 35 feet tall, is that correct?
Correct.
And P&Z is asking us to change the ordinance to,
They're asking for permission to allow this building to be up to 43 feet in height because of where the property lines are,
so on the west side, 43 feet high.
right? Is it the west or the east? East. South.
So the furthest portion away from the residential is the tallest.
So the west side.
The west side.
South.
The south side, where the entrance is.
Yeah, thank you.
Council, any other questions?
Oh, I did have one, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Wes.
Councilmember Walker.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Yes, that's next.
Oh, okay, thank you.
As we were going to get to, the next is comments by the applicant. So you guys have anything you'd like to say or comment on? I think a council member is going to call you up anyway, so.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Sony David. I'm with Langen Engineering. My address is 2999 Olympus Boulevard in Coppell. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Walker.
Now, finally, thank you so much, Mayor.
See, we have a process here.
I'm just so excited about this question that I jumped the gate. Thank you for being here tonight, sir. I know we didn't have a color palette that was associated with this, or at least not that we saw. Was there a color palette presented to P&Z?
I don't believe there was as part of the package. We did have elevations showing the building and what the anticipation was there, but I don't believe a color palette was submitted.
Would there be any consideration of using, earth tones or something that would be a little bit more compatible with the surrounding woods in terms of any kind of potential when the leaves shed in those trees, that there wouldn't be any visibility from the homes? I mean, I'm not trying to tell you how to build your building, but I was just curious, has a decision been made on the color palette, or is there something that could be done to maybe mitigate? Because if it's silver and gray, obviously, it's going to be a little bit more visible than it might be otherwise.
Sure. This is the palette we were, considering today, but it's not, set in stone by any means, open to other considerations. We're kind of trying to tap into the, dark accents with a light background that's kind of trendy today. Essentially, is the look that we were going for. But we're industrial guys, the color's a little less impactful.
Gentlemen, if we're going to be talking, you need to come forward and use the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
There are people watching.
Yeah, we can't. Give us your name and address and then make your comments,
Yeah,
please.
apologies. Levi Hermes with Alliance Industrial, 9900 North Central Expressway, Suite 330, Dallas, Texas. Sony here is our civil engineer, so the vertical up above the ground is not necessarily his purview. But yes, like I was saying, the color palette is not set in stone, but the renderings that are up on the screen today is what we're considering. It's meant to kind of be what's trendy today, quote unquote, with the darker accents and the lighter background and kind of making those entries pop was the intent we were going for. But we can be flexible there if we have to.
disclaimer, I mean, understand, my wife won't let me design or pick out anything at the house because I have no taste at all. So I'm the last guy that needs to be giving you advice on the color palette. But it would seem that at times, the leaves are going to fall out of those trees. It might increase the visibility to the neighborhoods of the building. If it was a color that wasn't quite so stark, perhaps it might be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing to the neighbors during those seasonal times.
Sure.
Just a suggestion.
Appreciate it. Yep, noted.
That's all I had, Mayor. I'm so sorry for the errant question.
Quite all right. Councilmember Hill.
I believe state law prohibits us from controlling materials and colors.
It does.
And I'm fine with it. I'm an architect, and I think it looks fine.
Thank you.
Kevin, did you have something? Okay. Councilmember Hinojosa Smith.
Thank you. I just wanted, because you were doing it from your seat rather than up here earlier, can you just give us clarity on the height, right? And what, you said the south, the north, I just wanted to understand kind of what the variances are in that perspective.
Sure. Are you able to put up site plan, aerial site plan onto the screen? There we go. That works right there. So you see the north compass up in the right-hand corner. So we call this a rear-loaded building, and so the slope of the roof falls back towards the truck court, and so naturally the front, or in this case the south of the building, is going to be the tallest point, and it slopes back. And so in that orientation that you can see up on the screen, the tallest point of the building is actually the furthest point away from the residential that's adjacent to the north. And so that was just the point I was trying to make, that in this variance, that tallest point is the furthest away from the residential.
Gotcha, okay. And it's helpful looking at it while it's up and you're describing, because I was trying to understand the south side and kind of where we were looking. So thank you for that, appreciate it.
I also did want to note that really when we were talking about the lower portion of the site, which is the top of the sheet and that northern side, the 38.5 feet that we're talking about is really the two end caps of where the building is. And so when you look at the vast majority of the building, which is really where all the docks are right now, it's 36 and 4 inches high. And so that's a much smaller difference than the 35-foot requirement. So just wanted to note that as well.
Yeah, great point. The ends that have some architectural elements of parapets are where you get a little bit taller.
All right. Council, any other questions? I actually had one, and I'm going to address it to Mary first. First of all, you answered one of my questions. This is a very heavily wooded area right now, but the $600,000 of tree mitigation fees kind of took care of that question, so that answered that. The 230 parking spaces, is that based on the number of square foot of the building? How's that calculated?
So parking's calculated on the type of use. So if it's an office component, it's calculated at 1 per 300 versus the warehouse type space, which is 1 per 1,000. So they make an assumption on a percentage of office use that is going to be required, and then a percentage of warehouse space, and that's how we got the number.
So are you guys comfortable with the 230 parking spaces? We've actually had businesses come back and say we don't need nearly that many because we're so automated. So just curious how you guys think you're going to end up on the head count, personnel and car-wise.
Sure.
I was just going to quickly add that when we did the calculations, the 230 is the minimum that's required by the city, and so that's what we maintain, but I'll let you talk about operations.
Yeah, so we're always looking at the ratio of parking per 1,000 square feet in general, which is the warehouse component. And this being well over to 1-to-1, that's kind of always our target that we're trying to hit. Feels really good. This is a shallower bay building compared to what we typically build. And with that shallower bay comes a heavier percentage of office than what, a big bomber type warehouse that you see in the surrounding areas of this site. And so that leads to a larger percentage of office workers than what, a big bomber warehouse that I just described. So that's where we see the heavier parking ratios. We would expect that this would be kind of right down the fairway for a building of this size and a building of this depth. So we feel really good about it. If anything, we might be a little light even, whenever we start to attract the tenants. But we'll see with the, the speculative nature of the project.
Okay, thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. Mary, I had a question for you. First of all, thank you for your presentation. And gentlemen, thank you all for being here tonight. Appreciate it. Had a question with our Rolling Oak Cemetery to the south of that. Are there any staff considerations or thoughts as to having a warehouse so close to that area? I'm mainly concerned about noise pollution, traffic, things like that. I want to be considerate of that, the fact that it's a solemn place and what the consideration of a structure like this would be next to that.
Okay. So, we did look at that, and with the building oriented the way it is, with the entrances on the southern end and the car parks there, it's also 4 to 8 feet lower on that side. So I think the traffic would be people coming in the morning and leaving at night. And in terms of, it is a light industrial property. So, even without these PD conditions that they're looking for, someone else could come in and build essentially the same thing. So we did look at it, and, we think that the way this is oriented, it will serve Coppell well.
And as a follow-up to that, did you have any opportunity to maybe talk to our community experiences department, our parks department, basically, considering it's kind of under their umbrella? Did they have any concerns about this? I don't know if there was that cross-department discussion or anything.
I did not talk to them about it.
Okay. Not trying to put you on the spot or anything.
Yeah,
I'm just
no.
curious if there was discussion about that. I do want to be mindful of what is next to our cemetery, and just that solemn area that's right there.
Right, and that's why when we talked to them about, this is our cemetery and stuff. So we do have, where they'll be putting in retaining walls and supplementing any type of vegetation and trees along that side to provide a better screening for that.
Right.
So we did keep that and put that in mind when we were talking to them.
So thank you. And then I'd like to kind of direct a very similar question to you gentlemen here. I mean, obviously with there being our cemetery there, I mean, any thoughts or considerations as to how y'all approach the project with that in mind?
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the things that we did have, and I think when we met originally with staff, that was one of the main concerns that we were talking about quite heavily. And so as we were looking at just that overall edge, when we had laid out the building and situated the building in this location, the thought process was having this area sunken in further. And so as Mary mentioned, you're really at a point where you're about 4 to 8 feet lower than where the cemetery is directly adjacent to you. So cutting the grade down, I think, helps quite a bit. What we've also done is also maintain that living edge along that place as much as we can. And what we've done with some of the landscaping is really filling in the gaps to allow that continuous screen to be maintained. Any areas where you may have an opening between the wall, we've also added proposed shrubs, other things like that, to make sure that we're blocking any of the car lights. And again, I think the functionality of the way this works is that ultimately when you do have a car coming in and parking in the morning, they're going to be probably leaving at lunchtime and then potentially really at the end of the day. And so it's going to be minimal in terms of traffic from that standpoint, whereas a lot of the operations and things like that are going to be happening in the truck court, which are going to be obviously screened by the overall building. And so that was kind of the thought process and the intent. But we did look at that area closely, and we did even shift the building up a little bit more. I think we were closer to the edge. And as we worked with staff, we were looking at really maintaining a lot of the trees and things like that within that space in order to accommodate that buffer.
Thank you for that perspective. I really appreciate that. And I apologize if I missed this. Did y'all have a tenant, or is this a spec building?
Speculative.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought I heard that. I just wanted to confirm that.
Sure.
So I asked that to say, so we don't quite know who's going to move in yet and what their hours of operation could potentially be, and since it is speculative, that some of those details are still in the air. Is that correct?
Sure, that's correct.
Okay.
I can tell you about some similar projects of this size in the
Okay.
area and the types of tenants we've leased to. Terminex is one. We did the project at Freeport in 635, and it's Irving jurisdiction, but right down the street. Terminex, and probably 75% of their warehouse use is actually for Christmas decoration storage. As I was coming in, I noticed you guys had yours going up. Those big trees and all the lights and everything have to be stored somewhere, and Terminex has a big business line for that in the commercial space. So there's hardly any truck traffic there, some box trucks at Christmas time, and then they have their fleet of pickup trucks. And then the other tenant in that building is Bar S Foods, so actually the hot dogs, so the frozen hot dogs are stored there, and those go out in the little frozen box truck, little freezer trucks to the grocery stores. So come off the planes at DFW Airport into the warehouse and then out to the grocery stores. So that's one case study that's very relevant, that's been leased up in the last year of a similar size building just right down the road, also a Freeport address.
Thank you for that perspective. I appreciate it.
Right. Thank you very much. Council, any other questions? Councilmember Hill.
Councilmember Nevels, I appreciate your concern about the adjacent cemetery, and I think it's a legitimate one, but I really think they could have flipped the building and had all the trucks on the other side. So quite honestly, I think they did a good job planning the facility, and I think I can support it.
Right. Council, any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen. This is a public hearing, but no one did sign up to speak. So in lieu of no other further questions from the council or comments, Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve, close the public hearing and move to approve item number 8 with conditions as presented.
Thank you. Have a motion. Do I have a second? Councilmember Prem Kumar. All in favor?
Walker, Smith, Carroll, Prem Kumar, Matthew Hill. Opposed? Nevels. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Okay. Item number 9 is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and consider approval of zoning change request from PD 134R-7F-7 Plan Development 134 Revised Single Family 7 to PD 134R4 SF7 Plan Development 134 Revision 4 Single Family 7 to consider allowing a short-term rental for one room on property located at 134 Turnberry Lane. This is in the greens of Coppell, and Councilmember Matthew lives within the 200-foot zone, so he is recusing himself from deliberation. Ms. Boswell.
Yes, sir. So on May 30th, 2023, the Coppell City Council approved an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, Article 30, special use permit, defining and establishing special use permit requirements for lodging houses, including short-term rentals, or STRs. So short-term rentals are required to have a special use permit in addition to registering with the city in order to legally operate in the city of Coppell. Typically, a special use permit is required for short-term rental. Because this lot is currently part of an existing planned development or PD district, an amendment to the PD is more appropriate and accomplishes the same result as an SUP. So this particular home has a guest room that is separated from the rest of the house. You'll see in the yellow there. The applicant has owned the home since 2021 and has a homestead exemption. The applicant is wanting to rent out one of the bedrooms that we outlined earlier. The residence is located at the northeast corner of Turnberry Lane and Kilbridge Lane. The single-family home has a two-car garage that fronts the street since there is no alley. There is an additional 2 spaces on the driveway for guest vehicles to park. As I mentioned, this particular home has a guest room that is separate from the rest of the house. It has its own entrance and is the room being proposed to be rented out for the STR. The room is located at the front of the property, in line and under the same roof as the garage. The room is a bedroom with an attached bathroom, television, and Wi-Fi. There's no place to cook, refrigerate, or heat up food. There are no signs on the buildings indicating that it is an STR. Guests would have access only to the room and a courtyard area and not the rest of the house. So the home did receive a permit for an STR in 2022. After staff found it online without a permit, it was used for short-term rental and the license expired in early 2023. Staff did reach out to all STR owners of the new approval process and expiration dates in 2022 and early 2023. Staff did find the home advertised online for rent in July of this year, but has since been removed once we contacted the owner. There have not been any police calls to this address concerning the STR since they've owned this property. They were reminded once about paying their hot taxes, and currently their hot taxes are up to date. Ms. Corral has indicated that she does live there. Code compliance has gone out and did a check on the house. The fire extinguishers have been updated, and missing smoke detectors have been installed. Again, because this is a zoning request, we did send out notices. 23 within the 200 feet is required by state law. Another 116 courtesy notices within 800 feet. We received about 7, mostly calls asking what was going on and wanted more information. And then as you can see on the screen, 2 within the 200 feet that were in opposition. So the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this request subject to the following conditions. 1, that they obtain an annual STR permit. 2, to notify staff of any change of property ownership. And 3, to limit the rental to the 1 room specified for less than 30 days. That is the end of my presentation, and the applicant is here as well.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Boswell? Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Boswell, do we have any idea how this house came to be with a separated bedroom?
I think it's just.
Is this the original?
Yeah, because I believe there's, we talked about this actually at the other meeting. I believe there's other houses in that subdivision that have the same floor plan.
So it's basically like a mother-in-law suite that's actually, you make her go outside to get to the other part of the house.
Yeah.
Is what it is. That,
close, but not
okay,
too
so
close.
it hasn't been reconstructed, I mean, it hasn't been changed or anything? This,
Not to my knowledge.
okay, thanks.
Council, any other questions? Does the applicant have any comments that she would like to bring forth? Come on down to the microphone and state your name. I think we know your address.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aditi Corral, and the property address is 134 Turnberry Lane, Coppell, Texas. The zip code is 75019. And I'm here to answer your questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions? Councilmember Carroll, your question might be appropriate.
I will ask, is this the way the house was originally constructed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
okay, I just had not seen this type of floor plan before,
Yeah,
so.
it's pretty unique.
Okay.
We do have a couple of other houses with a similar floor plan in the neighborhood, but I believe they do not have a bathroom. They just
Okay.
have a room, but
Just a room.
it has a bathroom too.
Okay, thank you.
Council, any other questions? Thank you very much. That was easy. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Hinojosa Smith.
Mary, I think this question might be for you. I don't know that I can ask the applicant, so I'll start with you. Can we limit the number of people that can stay in one room? So it's a one-bedroom, right?
Mhm,
Correct me if I'm
yes.
wrong. Can we limit the number of occupants that can be in this in this one area?
So I believe it's like a max of probably 2 for this room, because there's only 1 bed. So I think it depends on the type of setup that they have. And I believe she only wants up to 2 people.
Just one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
one-
have advertised it just for a single person.
A single person?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And so you've advertised for only one person?
Yeah, when we
And
were
then-
running it, yeah.
And then when they park, where do they park?
On the driveway. So,
On the driveway.
yeah, we park inside the garage, so we have a designated parking spot for the guest, so they park on the right side of the driveway.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Mary, the slide that we had with the notices, the courtesy notices and the 200-foot notice, so I see a couple red properties on there. Was there indication of the reasons why they were in opposition on that?
Yes, so typically, parking issues, strangers in the neighborhood, those types of scenarios.
Were there any specific to this property? I know we have kind of those general thoughts, but was there anything, or was it just a no checkbox?
Yeah, pretty much a no
Oh,
checkbox.
okay, all right. I just want to make sure I understood.
Yeah.
And you, just to reiterate, there's been no police calls or anything like that?
Correct. So I did check with police in terms of were there any calls. So from the time that they had the property, there were no calls.
And Mayor, could I ask, is there anyone to speak up for or against on the public hearing?
There has been no one signed up.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. And thank you, Mary.
Council, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, council, seeing no other comments, that leaves us open for a motion. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to close the public hearing and approve Agenda Item 9. With conditions. Thank you.
Seconded by Councilmember Carroll. All in favor?
Carroll, Nevels, Prem Hill, in favor. Opposed? Walker, Hinojosa, Smith. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Oh, yes, let's, Mr. Hager, could you please bring Councilmember Matthew back? Okay, item number 10 is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing, and I'm going to ask Mary I'm going to ask Mary Perone Boswell to read this one in the record. No, I did not want to read this one.
Not a problem. Item 10, public hearing, consider approval of PD 301R5-HC, a zoning change request from PD 301R3-HC, Plan Development 301 Revision 3, Highway Commercial, to PD 301R5-HC, Plan Development 301 Revision 5, Highway Commercial, to revise the concept plan for the overall development of the site and allow for the combination of retail, restaurant with and without drive-throughs and a hotel on 11 lots totaling approximately 16.77 acres of property, which incorporates a detailed site plan to allow a 16,510 square foot multi-tenant building with a restaurant and retail uses with a drive-through on Lot 3, Block A, on approximately 2.17 acres, a detailed site plan for a 16,780 square foot multi-tenant building with restaurant and retail uses on Lot 4, Block A, on approximately 2.24 acres of land, a detailed site plan for a 9,095 square foot building with restaurant and retail uses with a drive-through on Lot 2, Block A, on approximately 1.7 acres, and a detailed site plan for a 79,202 square foot, 5-story hotel on Lot 8, Block A, on approximately 2.96 acres of land located at the southeast quadrant of South Beltline Road and Dividend Drive. Not yet. All right, so if this looks familiar, you've seen it a few times. Tonight, we're here to revise the concept plan for the overall development of the site, and again, allow for a combination of retail, restaurant, with and without drive-throughs, and a hotel on 11 lots totaling approximately 16.77 acres of property. As I mentioned in the caption, there's a detailed site plan for a 16,510 square foot multi-tenant building with restaurant and retail uses and drive-through on Lot 3. A detailed site plan for 16,780 square foot multi-tenant building with restaurant and retail uses on Lot 4. Another detailed site plan for 9,095 square feet building with restaurant retail uses with a drive-through on Lot 2. And the most dramatic change is a detailed site plan for a 79,202 square foot, 5-story hotel on Lot A. Again, not much else has changed. There's still a linear park that is proposed to be constructed with Phase 1. So when you look on the screen there, the proposed changes, so there's going to be 11 lots instead of 10, a 5-story, 140-room hotel. Lots 3 and 4 have larger buildings based on some tenants. There's no medical office with this proposal. There's more patios proposed with this, with the various restaurant uses. And obviously, because of all the parking that's required, the buildings at the back are smaller, and there's basically a redistribution of restaurant and retail among the lots. So this image basically shows what will be constructed when. So the infrastructure is scheduled to begin first, and that's the gray. The items in the light blue, lots 2, 3, 4, and 8 will be part of Phase 1 and have a detailed site plan attached to this request. There's also Lot 5, which has an approved detailed site plan for a salad and go, so that was done a little while ago. The items in pink are to be constructed in separate phases and will require site plans. So access is still the same as previously conceptually approved, with 2 driveway entrances proposed along Dividend Drive, 1 along Hackberry, and 3 along South Beltline Road. So Lot 2 fronts Beltline Road, proposed to be a combination of restaurant and retail. And so I'm going to go through kind of the landscaping stuff. It's basically going to apply to all the lots that I'm talking about for their detailed site plans. So the landscaping for the site hasn't really changed significantly. There's modifications have been made to adjust to the property line changes. The landscape buffer along South Beltline Road will still range from 30 to 60 feet in depth and 30 feet along Dividend and Hackberry. Overstory trees will be placed in the landscape buffer along with a variety of plants, shrubs, ground cover placed in a meandering landscape bedded area. The linear park will also be constructed with Phase 1, and you can see it here at to the far right. So part of the linear park is attached to this Lot 2. One of the PD conditions will require that the details of the focal point area require staff approval and shall be in place prior to the CO of the buildings at the rear of the property. So this particular building increased in size from 3,800 square feet to 9,095 square feet. And you can see they do have a drive-through proposed here. In terms of materials and the general elevations for this building haven't really been altered significantly from what was previously approved. Obviously, it's expanded to include the bigger footprint, but essentially the general look and feel is the same. So again, Lot 3, I'm going to skip over all the landscaping stuff since it's all the same, just adjusted to conform with the lot lines. And part of the linear park is also to the rear of this property. So this building was previously 12,510 square feet. It's now proposed to be 16,510 square feet. And this is the lot that is adjacent to the main entrance to the north. So again, the general elevations are pretty much the same materials, so that it has conformity throughout the site. The next one is Lot 4, which has a restaurant and retail. This lot was previously had a 10,990 square foot building. It's now proposed to be 16,780 square feet. This one does not have a drive-through, but patio areas. Again, all these buildings that we're talking about have the same materials and a similar look and feel to them. Now, the biggest change that we talked about is for Lot 8, which is at the rear of the property. So the southeast corner. Previously, this was supposed to be a 33,000 square foot office space, but right now, hotel is proposed. It's a new concept hotel by Hilton called Tempo. It's proposed to be 5-story building with 140 rooms, limited service restaurant, a meeting area, pool, fitness room, outdoor plaza, and an outdoor plaza area for guests. And this lot actually also runs down the main entrance to Beltline Road. So this is the first floor plan for the hotel. You can see to the north, there's a big pool area, and just to the left of that, there's an outdoor plaza area. When you go inside the building, you'll see a bar area, lounge area, some conference area, amenities for the guests. So this is the first floor. And then the remaining floors will mimic this floor plan, which essentially is the rooms for hotel guests. So the hotel will share the same brick colors, but they also have added a rosemary green color stucco to the hotel face. The combination allows for both a tie to the rest of the center, but also gives the hotel the ability to brand itself. The hotel also has a design element in gray with white lights that represent street patterns in Coppell, which is considered, by our definition, signage. They are requesting that they be allowed to have this lit street pattern along with additional signage for the hotel. Although the sign for the hotel is shown on the elevation, no dimensions or information were given. So staff would require that the name sign meet ordinance requirements and that the street pattern sign, which also acts as an art piece, be allowed. Because art is allowed as a focal point, and this would be part of what fulfills that requirement. This next image essentially is just another elevation of the hotel. So again, this is a zoning change request. We did send out notices within 200 feet and 800 feet and received no responses. So the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval of the request subject to the same previous conditions. And then we did add 3 additional conditions, J, K, and L. I will kind of read over everything here. 1, that there may be additional comments during detailed engineering review. 2, that a final plat will be required prior to permitting for each of the detailed plans. 3, the TIA will need to be updated to reflect the proposed building expansions. 4, a right turn lane be constructed on South Beltline Road with this project, which has been done. Revise the landscape plans and calculations to reflect changes. Oh, we did that. PD conditions, all signage shall comply with city regulations unless specifically requested and granted. B, plans for the linear park shall require staff approval. C, the focal point artwork shall require staff approval and shall be in place prior to the issuance of a CO for the buildings at the rear of the property, which includes the hotel. D, a POA shall be required prior to filing of the final plat. A detailed site plan shall be required for the development of any of the lots. F, a tree survey and tree mitigation, if any, shall be required at the time of detailed plan development. G, parking shall be allowed in the front yards as shown. H, restaurants with drive-through shall be allowed as shown on the concept plan. I, to allow the monument signs as previously approved. And then these are the three new conditions that we added. J, to allow the art/lighting component for the Tempo Hotel. K, to allow patios under 500 feet per lot to not have an additional parking requirement. And L, to approve the setbacks as shown. So that is the end of my presentation, and the applicant is here as well to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Boswell? Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question on that. Lot 150 that's immediately south of the Tempo Hilton as proposed, is that City of Dallas? Where that other hotel's going up?
That's in our city limits.
That's our city limits, right? So we're going to have 2 hotels right there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? The applicant is in the audience. Do you guys have anything you would like to comment on, or? Please give your name and address.
Hello, Mayor, council members. Bobby Mendoza, Victory Real Estate Group, here representing the owner of the property. I'm here to answer any questions you all might have. Overall, really, the main changes is everything you see in red is still up as a proposal. There's been some changes from a medicals and retails. What we've done is we've consolidated the buildings that were previously shown and put them into really what we're calling our phase 1 retail buildings in the middle, lots 3 and 4. The lot 2 changed from being more of like a single tenant drive-through to really moving what was previously on lot 10 and 11, the retail building on that corner, moving that building. It fit better for that tenant to move over to lot 2 with a better drive-through stack. So that was the main change there, and basically we moved that single tenant drive-through back to the other side and reconfigured the lots. And other than adding the hotel and removing the banquet hall scenario. And obviously office is not doing the same as it used to, so the 3-story office in the back kind of went back to the drawing board, and we've just had a lot of need for restaurants up front. So that's the main changes of the concept plan.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks, Mayor. No, Bobby, thank you for, honestly, that rundown that you just gave really helped me a lot kind of understand what we approved previously and then kind of the market reasons for come back and the ask and things like that. So that makes a lot of sense. I would ask specifically, so without naming who, obviously, but you've obviously been talking to some people, and a lot of these changes, is that from direct feedback from them, like, we want this building, but on this site, and that would serve us better?
Yes.
So, but these are based on real conversations that you've had?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, our national coffee user couldn't fit well on the lot 10 and 11, so they asked to move to lot 2, and that's was the main change between those 3 lots there on what happened. And then, we had some changes on lot 4. One of the tenants we had was no longer expanding into the area, so we removed the drive-through. We figured that'd be a good, since we're adding 3 lots of not knowing what's happening with drive-throughs on the other side of the property, we figured it'd be good to remove that drive-through, and we have a restaurant there that's looking to take that end cap. So.
Then one more follow-up. Are you seeing, just from your conversations, are you seeing potentially, there's been obviously some requests for restaurants, but are you seeing a demand for retail here in this?
Typically, the greatest demand we have right now is restaurants, sit-down restaurants. And, we do multi-tenant retail all over DFW, and this site specifically is garnering much more restaurant than we typically see in these regions. My guess is Cypress Waters, the daytime population, the industrial you guys have in this area is driving that. And we will have the retails, we'll have the fitness guys, we'll have the spas, we'll have everything that'll start come into play. We recorded our plat today, so we should be starting infrastructure next week. That'll really, once dirt moves, that'll really spark the rest of the interest. I'd say we're about 40% leased in each of the buildings right now.
Wow. Oh, thank you. That was more than I was looking for. So no, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. I appreciate that insight on what it's looking like.
So Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for being here this evening. So you started to get into what I was going to ask you about. The infrastructure is going to begin, you'll start breaking dirt, and then what's your general timeline on the phase one?
Based off of our GC contract, it's about 5 months to get our infrastructure done. We have our detailed site plan that will be approved hopefully today by council. Once we have that, we'll go to full civils and we'll submit those to the city, and then we'll start our building permit after that. Ideally, we can start our buildings, in 4 months, 5 months. Once we get infrastructure going, it's all dependent on how quickly we can move to the process. So we're ready to build those first 3 buildings as soon as we can. The hotels, we're selling that to another developer, so we're not involved in that building, and I can't answer their timelines.
So roughly last quarter 25, first quarter 26?
I would say 7-5. I'd say, honestly, 12 months, it'll be fully built and tenants will be in there constructing.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Hinojosa Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand the drive-throughs are, that the lots that have drive-throughs are lot 5, lot 2, and then lot 3? Or just 2 and 5?
The drive-through shown here are lot 1.
Oh, lot 1 has one.
Lot
Okay,
2,
yes.
which is a multi-tenant building with an
Okay.
end cap drive-through. Lot 3, which is a multi-tenant building with an end cap drive-through.
Okay.
Lot 5, which is Salad and Go.
Right.
And that's been through council, I believe. And then we're showing lot 9, 10, and 11. Lot 9 is more of a retail building, showing almost a bank layout, but it may be a drive-through. Honestly, we don't know how lot 10, 9, 10, and 11 are gonna shake out. Those are
But right now it's 1, 2, 3, and 5.
1, 2, 3, and 5, which I would say
Are the, okay.
we know. It could end up where 10 and 11 are as well.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate that. This is just a busy area, but any concerns from staff in any way, shape, or form from the just flow of traffic? And I guess we would have the ingress and egress as we needed to get in and out of the area?
Right, so there's multiple entrances and exits. Like I said, 2 on Dividend, 3 along Beltline, and then another one on Hackberry. So engineering's looked at it, fire's looked at it for fire lanes, so we're confident in this layout.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. One other question about the hotel. I know you said that it's going to be a separate developer and stuff, but you said it's a new concept Hilton.
Yes.
Could you speak to, I obviously this a new concept, have no, like the value proposition of this hotel versus some of their other?
My understanding is this is a new concept from Hilton, early 2020 development of it. They have 3 existing, I believe 1 in Hilton Head, 1 in Times Square, and 1 in, I want to say somewhere in California, but
Okay.
they're considered a high-end contemporary hotel
Okay.
For what they call the modern traveler. But that's to the extent of what I know. They're excited about it. It's a high-end product. I think Hilton's trying to really roll this out now as a new product, and we're to be honest with you, our development, as you can see, it's more of a modern contemporary development, so it fits in really well with what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, and just a general comment, I do like the way that the hotel would be there to support the restaurants and the retail there. So it does seem to go really well together with the site plan. So thank you for, I'll have to go do my homework on this new concept, but thank you for sharing what you know.
Yep, no problem.
Council, any other questions here? Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Any other, seeing that we have no comments or questions, I will accept a motion. Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move that we close the public hearing and move approval of PD 301R5HC, a zoning change request from PD 301R3HC, Plan Development 301 Revision 3, Highway Commercial, to PD 301R5HC. Should I read the whole thing?
No, I think number 10 is fine.
Oh, okay. I would close the public hearing and move approval of item 10
With conditions. With conditions.
with staff conditions.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilmember Hinojosa Smith. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa Smith, Carol, Neville's, Prem Kumar, Matthew Hill, in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
I was so excited about that.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm I think I've lost control of this one. All right, item number 11 is the city manager reports of project updates, future agendas, and direction from work session. Mr. Land.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we've got a few items that want to go through. Our annual Make a Child Smile holiday program has begun. It encourages the community members to donate holiday gifts to children in Coppell ISD. Those who would like to participate can either select a virtual ornament from the makeachildsmilecoppell.com page or select a physical ornament from the tree at Town Center. It's up in the CMO's office on the second floor. The ornaments will include the child's gift preferences and clothing sizes. All donations must be returned to the Town Center by November 30th, and staff will be delivering the gifts prior to Christmas. If you haven't participated in that before, it's a lot of fun and very appreciated. Cosby Library and Community Commons was closed today and will be closed through Thursday to recover from the disruption caused by the network outage. During this time, staff is working to restore all online systems, including the library catalog, Wi-Fi printing and scanning, self-checkout, cloud library, as well as checking in over 7,000 books and reshelving them all. So they're once again available for checkout by the community. While the building is closed, the drive-up window will remain open to assist our customers with returning items, answering questions, and renewing or creating library cards. Magnolia Park Trail, the contractor is building the access road to the work site and will begin the subgrade prep for the embankment within the next few weeks. Woodhurst, the contractor, is working on the sidewalk construction, irrigation repairs, and will begin final landscaping soon. DART, the contractor, is working on East Beltline median at Valley Drive. Fire Station 5, if you haven't driven by, it has gone vertical. The steel and CMU vertical walls are underway, and the roof decking will start within the week. Service Center, the new north parking lot, sidewalk nose, and parking is underway. The DeForest Lift Station, site improvements. The contractor is pouring the concrete paving this week. The Wagon Wheel Water Tower site improvements. The contractor has begun rebuilding the screen wall. 635 and Beltline, if you've been at the intersection, you can see that they're doing their work, and they'll start working on the median over 635 next week. And the Freeport Northwestern traffic signal, that's there at Very. The contractor will begin potholing the utilities tomorrow. And Mayor, just want to say thank you to the community. Thank you to y'all for the support as we continue to work through our cyber event. We are really getting close to being over the hump. We will have some bumps along the way, and we've had some, but our ES staff has done an amazing job with the strike team. To think where we started, tomorrow will be 3 weeks. So in 20 days to basically rebuild our systems, it's been pretty amazing work on their part. So thank you for the grace that's been granted us and the community and their support. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item numbers 12 is Mayor and Council reports on recent and upcoming events. In case no one noticed, we had a minor little election last week. From a Texas standpoint, Ted Cruz was reelected as our state senator and then Beth Van Dyne was elected House District 24 in the local area. At a much more local area, Ben Bumgardner, was elected state representative for the Coppell Greens area. and Cassandra Hernandez was elected to House District 115. Tan Parker was elected a state senator for both areas. So we do have a new rep, and looking forward to working with all of our elected officials starting in January. To enable that, we had an election site here at Town Center. We had approximately 90 Dallas County election workers working throughout the early voting and election day. A large majority of those workers were from Coppell. They logged a total of over 4,000 hours monitoring and assisting during the election. And of over our 20,000 Coppell residents voted in this election, representing over 70% voter turnout. So we had a wonderful turnout, both in terms of quantity and quality of voting. So thank you to all the workers that worked and all the voters that came out and voted. Item number 13 are council committee reports concerning items of community interest with no council action or deliberation permitted. Item A is the report on the Dallas Regional Mobility Coalition. Councilmember Don Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. The last quarter has been quite interesting as we ramp up for the election, trying to figure out who was going to get elected and what that means for transportation. Some of our guest speakers over the last 3 or 4 months, we have had from NTTA, their Director of Public Affairs, Arturo Ballesteros, came and tried to educate us in general about the history of the NTTA and why at different points different roads were told under that authority. We also had Lisa Craven, who's actually the Deputy Comptroller and Chief of Staff for Glenn Hager, speak to us last month. And then next month we'll actually have Scott Braddock to speak to us from the Quorum Report and sort of give us a rehash on the election. Just highlighting some interesting things that Ms. Craven mentioned about the upcoming revenues of the state. So it looks like the general fund is going to be up about 1.1%. However, all the funds, if you consider all the funds, it's actually going to be down about 3.6%, and that's sort of reflective of losing Fed funds from the COVID era. Sales tax is up about 1.2%, and really growth is normalizing as inflation has really flattened at this point. And the growth, a lot of the growth we're seeing is just tied to the growth in Texas in general. We do have what's called the Economic Stabilization Fund, also known as the Rainy Day Fund. We're potentially at the end of next fiscal year going to hit sort of a milestone on that, is we're actually going to hit the cap on that fund at a little over 26. The cap's about $26.5 billion, and they are projecting will be over $27 billion. So the legislature, in addition to actually having some excess revenue to figure out how to spend, they also have to manage the ESF and figure out how to keep that under the cap as we go into fiscal year 26, at least based on projections. And then the last thing I'll wrap up with is the not finalized but likely to be approved legislative agenda for the DRMC. The things we're going to be focusing on or wanting the legislature to focus on is going to be extend TxDOT's ability to issue bonds for the Texas Mobility Fund beyond the sunset date of 2027. Second thing is going to be to support state funding for public transportation, including but not limited to using the Texas Mobility Fund or direct appropriations for funding, state funding of public transportation. The third one is going to be to opposing a prohibition that restricts the voice of local governments to have representation in Austin. And then the last one is going to be provide cities and counties with expanded tools for land use control and preserve future transportation corridors. And I may have made everyone go to sleep with that list of legislative agenda items, but that's what it looks like our agenda is going to be going into the next session. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. So to wake us all up, item number B is a report on the Woven Health Clinic with Councilmember Mark Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. They put a lot of pressure on me here.
I did.
Woven Health Clinic continues to work towards the mission of providing accessible, high-quality health care and wellness programs to the Coppell community with a focus on holistic health. They've hosted 22 pop-up clinics at the core during 2024 for the residents of Coppell, where they've provide primary care, women's health, nutritional counseling, behavioral health, and other various specialties. Woven has successfully integrated mental health support with primary care through their Mind Matters Wellness program. Over the past 6 months, this initiative has contributed to significant patient health improvements, including an average remission rate of 69% for mental health conditions, improved blood pressure for 55% of its participants, and reduction of A1C levels for 35% of its participants. Their newest program at Woven Healthcare, known as Whole Health Nourishment, is designed to address food insecurity and improve nutritional health for patients facing barriers to accessing healthy food. This initiative combines nutritional education, cooking workshops, and community outreach to empower individuals with the skills and knowledge needed to make affordable, nutritious food choices. By providing quarterly cooking classes led by registered dietitians and guest chefs, participants learn practical strategies for meal planning and preparation, with a focus on managing chronic conditions like diabetes and hypertension. Additionally, the program offers educational materials and resources on food budgeting and healthy eating, helping patients making informed choices. And the Whole Health Nourishment program takes a whole person approach to health, and it's definitely going to be a successful program. Thank you.
Thank you. Item C is report on MetroCrest services with Councilmember Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. City of Coppell works closely with the MetroCrest Social Service, and the stats that I'm going to read is from fiscal year 24. That's from October 2023 to September 2024. We had about 700 residents visit the food pantry. That's about 2,055 times. Through our summer feeding program, SAC Summer Hunger, 51 Coppell ISD students were provided 4,590 meals over the course of the summer. 90 households utilized workforce development service to prepare them for a successful job search. 85 families were assisted with the financial coaching to create a household budgets. 60 households received emergency rent and utility assistance. And the MetroCrest service Empower Gala is going to be on November 16th at the Renaissance Hotel in Addison, and they're thanking the City of Coppell for supporting this event. At the gala, MetroCrest will be raising funds for the creation of the Pathways Fund. These funds will be used to assist clients with the one-off needs that are often what is needed to be ensure the family is set on the path to self-sufficiency. That's all I have. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item number 14 are public service announcements concerning items of community interest with no council action or deliberation permitted. Do we have any public service announcements? Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to announce that Leanne Rhymes is coming to Coppell in January. Coppell Art Center is delighted to announce that Leanne Rhymes is coming to Coppell for one unforgettable performance on Friday, January 24th at 8 p.m. She's an international multi-platinum selling acclaimed singer and ASCAP award-winning songwriter and has sold over 48 million units globally and amassed numerous awards during her career. Tickets will go on sale this Friday, November 15th at 10 a.m. So please join all of us down at the Art Center to see this wonderfully talented artist. Thank you.
Thank you with that advance information. Mayor Pro Tem Nevels.
Jim's announcement was cool. I do have an important announcement, though. So as you guys I want to report to the council that one of the measures that was on the ballot for this year was at this year's November election was the Coppell ISD Vader election. Unfortunately, I'm sad to report that that measure was defeated by about 2,000 votes. It was about 10,500 to about 12,500 votes, approximately. So, unfortunately, Coppell ISD is not going to be able to get at about $2.4 million in additional funding that they were kind of counting on for their fiscal year. So, with that being said, though, there are other opportunities I want to make sure that the citizens of Coppell were aware of to support teachers and our schools. Coppell ISD Education Foundation is hosting their Give for Grants campaign right now. So I thought this was something very interesting. I did see on social media that we have one of our community leaders, I would say, is kind of put out a challenge there that said the additional $163 that the Vader would have generated on a average home in Coppell, why not give that to Coppell ISD Ed Foundation to help support teachers in the classroom? So you can get information on how to donate at Coppell ISD EF. It's Coppell ISD Ed Foundation, coppellisdef.org, and find out more information how you could support the Ed Foundation and help our teachers in need. Thank you.
Thank you, and I apologize. I had one other item. This Friday, the Coppell Cowboys will be playing in post-district play against the Prosper Eagles, and I have challenged our mayor, our city manager, to challenge his counterpart at Prosper, who used to be here in town. The winner wear the T-shirt of the other team. And I'm going to challenge their mayor to the same thing.
Winner or the loser?
The loser has to wear the T-shirt of the winner. Did I say it backwards?
Potentially.
Thank you for keeping me straight. Mayor Pro Tem, I was looking to you to do the same with your member.
If they have a place for, there will be a challenge issued.
I was talking about Mayor Pro Tem.
If there is a mayor pro tem, there will be a challenge issued.
And I would invite all the rest of the council members to look up your counter member over in Prosper and do the same thing. So we'll see. Let's all hope we're wearing our normal clothes next time around. So anyway. We'll take note. That there being no necessary action from executive session, it being 8:57 p.m., we are adjourned. Thank you very much.